Good morning and welcome to this IGCSE review. Today I'm going over chapter 2 in our book here, also set part 2 in the syllabus, and that is the cell and the cell structure. And in this video I am going to go over the animal and plant cell, and then I'm going to show you an example from an IGCSE exam where this is put in use. So what I'm going to go over here is a eukaryotic cell, which are the plants, the animal, the fungi, and the protista. And I'm not going to go into detail with the prokaryotes, the bacteria and archaea in this video. So I've drawn here an animal cell and a plant cell, and I'm going to try to compare them in structures. Both the animal cell and the plant cell has a cell membrane. And as we're going to talk in detail about later, the membrane is what controls what come in and out of the cell. And this is both the osmosis, the diffusion, the active transport. So this is super important, and to have a membrane that can control the difference between the inside and the outside environment of the cell to keep the cell homeostatic. But if you see here on our plant cell, we also have something else. The cell wall. The cell wall is a rigid structure they don't find in animals, and the cell wall is there to keep the plant cell rigid. It also helps if we keep bursting, and it is what gives like structural integrity. This is why you can have a tree growing and be very long and strong, because you have these cell walls made of celluloses and lignin and stuff like that. So the cell wall is still permeable because the last structure, so water and other things can move through the cell wall, but it still helps to keep the structure of the cell. Inside the cell, we have cytoplasm, which is the liquid where all our different reactions take place. It's mainly water, but a lot of other stuff is in there too. There can be sugar, proteins, enzymes, and other stuff. In the cells, we also have what are called vacuoles. These are like a space within the cell, which is surrounded by a membrane and which contains something else. In animal cells, vacuoles are small, while in plant cells, they can be quite large. Vacuoles in the plant cells often contain cell sap, and they can also help keeping the structure of the cell. In the plant cell, we also have a chloroplast. Chloroplast is a structure we don't have in animal cells, because chloroplast is where sunlight reacts with the chlorophyll within the chloroplast, and this is what makes photosynthesis, where we capture carbon and use the carbon and the light energy to make carbohydrates and energy, and we release oxygen. So this is what makes all our primary producers, our plants and algae, so awesome. Animal cells don't have it. Within each cell, we have a nucleus. And the nucleus is surrounded by a membrane as well inside. And inside the nucleus we have the DNA, which is what controls our protein synthesis. This is the powerhouse of the cell. And this is, if we see our cell as a city, this is the city office, this is the mayor's office, it's where all the information is kept. In all eukaryotes, the DNA is within the nucleus, while in prokaryote it is free in the cell. Then we have our mitochondria. Mitochondria, so I draw in a different way. Mitochondria are part of the cell where you burn sugar to create energy. They're the powerhouse of the cell, and cells that need a lot of energy will have many mitochondria. Of course, while cells that need less energy has less mitochondria. So mitochondria is where we burn off carbon by using oxygen and release the CO2. Plants also have mitochondria. And we have our ribosomes. The ribosomes are structures here on our endoplasmatic reticulum, and the role of the ribosome is to create protein. So we'll get into that later, but you get a messenger RNA out from the cell. This goes to the ribosomes, and the ribosomes then use that blueprint to create the protein needed in the cell. So this is the basic animal and plant cell. The big difference is the plant cell has a cell wall, it has large vacuoles, and it has our chloroplasts, while the animal cell has small vacuoles and no cell wall and no chloroplasts. I hope this helps a bit. And now I'm going to show you an example of a old exam paper where we use this in detail. Okay, so here we have an example from an old exam paper where we are giving 4 different statements, and then we have to label, draw a line to connect them with the plant cell structure they fit with. So let's see if we can do this. So the first one here, it asks which part controls the cell activities, and we see the option over here is cell membrane, cell wall, chloroplast, nucleus, and vacuole. And since we know that the control center is the nucleus, well, in that case, this must be the nucleus that controls cell activities. Control movement of chemicals in and out of the cell. Well, we know that the cell wall is permeable, so it can't be the cell wall. The chloroplasts makes sugar, so it can't be that. The vacuole stores stuff, so the only other option left is our cell membrane. Make glucoses. This is what makes plant cells special. So this can of course be the one thing that only plant cells have, that is the chloroplast. And then last, prevents cell from bursting. This one here could be a little tricky, because you could say, oh, could be vacuole, could be cell wall, but you know that one of the things about cell walls is that they keep the cells from bursting. The best answer here, and also the answer that Cambridge would like you to give, is cell wall. So as often in these kind of questions here, it's a kind of deducting which answer it can't be, and getting one of these right is 4 easy points. So one thing we also need to look at is section 2.2 in the syllabus, which is the difference between tissue, organ, and organ systems. And here I just chosen a part of the human heart, as this is something we will go over later in the syllabus. So a tissue is a group of cells that specialize in the same activity. For example, in the heart, that could be contractive muscle cells. They're doing the same thing. So they're tissue. Other example of tissue could be tissue in the stomach making acid, or it could be tissue in root hair cells that absorbs water. So organ is a group of tissue that work together. So an organ is made out of different kind of tissue, and it has a job. For example, our heart is an organ, so is our liver, so is our kidney. An organ system is a system of organs working together on a major job. For example, we have our entire digestive system, and we have our respiratory system. In this case here of the heart is part of our respiratory system, together with the lungs, the blood vessels, and so on. So here is a question from last year's exam, which shows section 2.2, and it's a multiple choice question, and we see them very often. And they ask, at which level of organization is a root? And we're giving the options organ, organ system, organism, and tissue. And again, very often in these kind of multiple choice questions, the easiest thing is to see which one of the answers will be wrong. So we know that it's not an organism because the organism is the entire plant. We know it's not tissue because the root is built of different kind of tissue, so it can't be that. So we have organ and organ system left. Well, the organ system here is, in the plant, will be the root and the xylem and the phloem, so it can't be the organ system. So the only option left, which by the way is also the one that's right, is A, an organ. So the root in the plant is an organ.